It's important to recognize what makes you happy.
Cherish what you have right now.
I learned that sometimes it's just best to listen.
I realized what I wanted to do as a career.
I know how to balance my time and energy.
Change can be good.
Hey Storm Nation, welcome to Bolt 2021.
Stepping out of the storm.
Welcome back to Bolt 2021. It's week 2. I'm Abigail and I'm a junior here at Skyview. Last week we had 4 fantastic presentations. We had some great music from Dylan and Nicole and some inspiring speeches from Liam and Zachary. This week, there's more in store. We're starting with Cy Buckmeyer, who's singing a song.
Hello everybody, my name is Cy Buckmeyer, and today I'm going to be singing Clouds by Zach Sobiak. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. I fell down, down, down into this dark and lonely hole. There was no one that cared about me anymore, and I needed a way to climb and grab a hold. At the edge, you were sitting there, holding a rope, and we'll go up, 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 but I'll fly a little higher. Go up in the clouds because the view's a little nicer up here, my dear. It won't be long now, it won't be long now when we get back on land, but I'll never get my chance. Be ready to live and it'll be ripped right out my hands. And maybe someday we'll take a little ride. We'll go up, 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 and everything will be just fine. We'll go up, 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 but I'll fly a little higher. Go up in the clouds because the view's a little nicer up here, my dear. It won't be long now, it won't be long now. If only I had a little bit more time. If only I had a little bit more time with you. You go up, 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 and then take that little ride. We'll sit there holding hands and everything would be just right. And maybe someday I'll see you again. We'll float up in the clouds and we'll never see the end. We'll go up, 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 but I'll fly a little higher. Go up in the clouds because the view's a little nicer up here, my dear. It won't be long now, it won't be long now. Thank you, everybody. Continue to stay safe during COVID, and thank you very much. Bye.
That was great, Cy. Next up, we have Miss Cowan doing a presentation on grief in a pandemic.
Hello. My presentation is called Grieving in a Global Pandemic. So my name is Allie Cowan, and I teach graphic design in your book here at Skyview, and I wanted to talk to you today about grief. Usually this would be a topic that maybe only a few people would really connect to in any given year. But this year, we've all been going through so much loss all around the world. Your loss might be something like the loss of the school year, a sports season, or an activity you usually do. You might have lost a friendship because of all of the distancing, or a family business. You might have lost a community member, a celebrity role model, or a pet, Or you might have lost a friend or a family member to COVID or to any other reason. And it's just been a strange year to be grieving. Maybe you're just feeling this national, worldwide sense of grief as we've lost so many people to COVID and other reasons in a very short amount of time. All losses can affect us in expected and unexpected way. And when we feel bad, we can usually see our family, go to a doctor, hug a friend. So what do we do when the world shuts down? So I wanted to share a bit with you about a loss I experienced, the lessons I've learned, about ways to cope with loss. And even when the pandemic kept us from traveling and gathering and going through some of the rituals that we go through when we lose someone, maybe there's some ways that I got through grief that you can learn from. And here's your disclaimer, I am not a mental health professional. So my loss. On January 8th, 2020, I got an early morning call from my mom and learned that my dad had died very suddenly in the night. And needless to say, this was a horrible moment, completely changed my life, just crushing sadness, didn't know what to do with myself. My whole world just changed. And I was devastated. And I didn't realize then that I was lucky to be able to still get on a plane and travel. And my sister could get on a plane and travel. We could go to California. We could be with my mom. We could visit with friends and neighbors because the pandemic was not in full swing yet. So I didn't know that that was a gift. All I knew is that I just lost one of the most important people in my life. So as from January 8th and on, I learned a lot about grieving. So one thing is that there's a lot of myths out there. So for example, the stages of grief, when we talk about the stages of grief, we think that there's very clear progression of things you go through. And if you go through them all, then everything will be great. My reality, and a reality for a lot of people, is that it looks more like the red line on the right, just a big, messy, up, down, forward, backward, topsy-turvy. You don't even know where you are at any given moment. Other myths or other things they just don't tell you about the way that grief affects you beyond just, sadness, is I could not make a decision. My brain functioning was very impacted. I couldn't make plans for the future. And it's very lonely, even when people are offering you support and even when people are checking in with you. It's still a very lonely place to be. And of course, the pandemic, as time went on and we were more and more restricted, did not make that any easier. So as I was going through this red line of emotional disarray, at a certain point, I started to feel nothing at all. And it would seem like that would be a relief after feeling just weeks and weeks of sadness, but actually it was really scary to feel so flat. It was scary to think that I was done being sad. It was scary to think that I'm not capable of mourning someone. And so that's when I actually decided to get help, was when I was feeling flat, not when I was feeling sad. So I did decide to go to grief counseling and figure out what was going on with my brain. So in doing that, I learned a lot about grieving. I learned that the stages aren't really a thing, that grief isn't the same thing as depression, that when you are grieving, you are going through a biological process where your brain has to grow and change to accommodate your new reality. You have all of these stories in your head. The way your brain is networked is around this person. And when they're gone, your brain has to completely rewire itself. And that can be, it can change your mood, and it can also just be really exhausting. I learned that pop culture often gets death and grieving really wrong, that I didn't know what to expect if I just watched TV and movies to learn about this experience, and that it's okay to ask for help. So how do you grieve in a pandemic? the visits with family had to stop. Eventually, I couldn't even go to my grief counselor anymore. And the COVID restrictions and our family's own health concerns kept us from gathering. The celebration of life that we had planned was canceled, then postponed, and then canceled again as COVID, went through the West Coast. And so without these traditions and rituals, how can we process our feelings and feel support from other people? So I found some ways to heal myself, to do things that could be done from home. Some of them are rooted in human tradition. Others are 21st century solutions, and others were just trial and error. So one thing I did was I found art that did resonate with me. I mentioned that a lot of times pop culture gets it wrong. Sometimes it gets it right. For me, the finale of The Good Place, which was aired several weeks after my dad passed, was incredibly cathartic, and it had a really beautiful imagination of death and life and meaning. And it was I cried a lot, but it was helpful. Taylor Swift's Folklore came out right when we were all feeling sad, and it was a wonderful way to connect with. She has a lot of songs on there about, fate, about life and death, and that was beautiful. So what is something that could connect with you? Make your own art. So I drew inspiration from some of these depictions, and I did my own art. So if you saw the end of The Good Place, you might recognize the idea of the sparkles, the pieces of light coming from someone. And that image was so comforting, I decided to just recreate it for myself. I recreated the Five of Cups tarot card, which is about grief. And again, just thinking about stories that you can make yourself part of was very helpful. So I would consider making your own art, drawing, music, poetry, to help yourself express how you're feeling. And you don't have to share your artwork. I chose to, but it's for you. Build an altar. So cultures across the globe create altars to those who have passed. It can help you connect with that person. It can help you connect with your senses. So for me, on my altar, I have some black tea because the smell of it reminds me of the tea my dad would have for breakfast every morning. And then objects from our life together. And you can also connect with that person. So at Halloween, I put some of my dad's favorite candies, Milky Ways, on the altar. So think about having objects near you that you can look at, that you can touch, that help you get through. Keep a journal. This is a very interesting time. It's a very telling time about our mental health. I'm not a good journaler, but I tried over the last year, and I am grateful for the things I wrote down. And I regret things that I didn't because my brain was so mushy that I don't really remember everything that happened, even though it felt so visceral at the time. So I would strongly suggest that. Find your own community. Without a formal memorial event, I still wanted to talk to people and connect with people who knew my dad, who knew what I was missing, who were missing him too, who had stories to share. So social media was helpful for that. My dad's coworkers set up a website where people could send in their memories, and that was really lovely to read. I found myself in the Amazon review section of his book when I was feeling particularly desperate for some connection, and reading 5-star reviews of my dad's textbook about dinosaurs was strangely wonderful, because when people said, "Oh, it's a great book, so helpful, you explain it so well," I'm like, yeah, that was my dad. So even total strangers reviewing his book are my community when we can't gather. Wear a talisman or memory. So in many cultures, people would wear mourning clothes or a certain color, special jewelry, even face paint to show that they were someone who was grieving. And sometimes I wish we had a tradition like that still. I would like people to just see me and know, oh, she's not in a good place right now. So I've made my own tradition. I like to wear my dinosaur-themed things or wear my fossils when I'm thinking about him. I'll even wear my dad's sweaters that I took when I went to visit. And so not only is that comforting to me, but also the people who care about me can see these things and say, you know, how are you doing today? And I could also it's something I can carry around with me as well. And consider having a mantra or a phrase that helps you when times are tough. For me, the only way out is through was what I would say to myself when I was feeling particularly sad, when I was having a rough day, because it reminded me that it was important to process these emotions. And you can't get around this feeling. You can't get over it. You can't just stop and not move forward. You have to move forward and you have to get through it. So you can steal that if you want. And lastly, I learned it's okay not to be okay. So we're just seeing a national conversation about grief and loss right now, thanks to COVID. Many people are talking about grief and loss in light of George Floyd and other people we have lost this year to racist violence. And so you can turn to social media and find some very honest discussions about grief and loss. So I hope that you are encouraged to explore your feelings, to maybe reach out to others, or to just acknowledge that it's been a hard year and that there's things you can do to help yourself get through it. So here's to better days ahead, and thank you very much.
That was really moving from Miss Cowan. Next, we've got James Beansmeyer with another musical performance. He'll be singing a Justin Bieber song.
Hey Skyview, it's Bees here. COVID's been a hard time, and Hold On by Justin Bieber is a song that got me through some of the heartache and not being able to see friends, family, or even being able to see classmates or peers from school. So I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. You know you can call me if you need someone. I'll pick up the pieces if you come undone. Painting stars up on your ceiling, cause you wish that you could find some feeling. Yeah, you call me if you need someone. Woo! I need you to hold on. Heaven is a place not too far away. We all know I should be the one to say we all make mistakes. Take my hand and hold on. Tell me everything that you need to say, cause I know how it feels to be someone. Feels to be someone who loses their way, looking for answers in a place unknown. You need the connection, but you can't get close. Painting stars up on your ceiling, cause you wish that you could find some feeling. Yeah, you call me if you need someone. Woo! I need you to hold on. Heaven is a place not too far away. We all know I should be the one to say we all make mistakes. Take my hand and hold on. Tell me everything that you need to say, cause I know how it feels to be someone. Feels to be someone who loses their midnight to morning. Call if you need somebody, I will be there for you. midnight to morning. Call if you need somebody, I will be there for you. I need you to hold on. Heaven is a place not too far away. We all know I should be the one to say we all make mistakes. Take my hand and hold on. Tell me everything that you need to say. 'Cause I know how it feels to be someone. Feels to be someone who loses their way. Midnight to morning, call if you need somebody, I will be there for you. Oh yeah, yeah, midnight to morning, call if you need somebody, I will be there for you. Hang in there, guys. COVID's almost over, I can feel it. Peace.
Thanks, Bees. Finally, we've got Michelle Holgan doing a speech about her identity.
Hi, my name is Michelle Holgan Panetta and I am a senior. Today I'm here to share my story with you all. My core identity is made up of a few things: being a woman, being a Mexican person of color, living in a mixed status family, and being low income, and navigating these identities all while attending a predominantly white high school. All of these identities don't define me solely as a person, but have certainly shaped my experience and interactions at the school. Navigating the world with these identities at the forefront has proved to me that the society I inhabit will always mark me as an outsider. I have been riddled with microaggressions and assumptions, not only from society as a whole, but also, to my greatest disappointment, my peers. The following are only a few of the assumptions, microaggressions, and violent rhetoric that I've been told by my own peers. Go back to your own country. What would happen if you had to get deported by Trump? And calling me beaner and immigrant. The microaggressions and assumptions about my ethnicity, citizenship status, and race have never stopped being harmful, but have instead instilled a zeal and passion to cultivate a world where no marginalized people have to experience that dangerous rhetoric. I don't share these examples to get pity, but instead to shed a light on the very real ways that we can actively cause harm to one another through these words and actions. Whether the intent of those words was to cause harm or simply as a joke, these things weren't funny to me and continue to be harmful. You never know what someone else is going through, and by brushing aside those hurtful things, we unfortunately normalize and accept that behavior. It is difficult to educate my peers on what is hurtful and problematic language because it's not personal to them. They will never understand why these things aren't jokes or something to be taken lightly because of their immense privilege. It's important to begin to shift the culture of our school into one of understanding, listening, anti-racism, racial, and social equity. The mission of Skyview High School is to provide students with the necessary knowledge and skills to be college, career, and life ready. But we students of color can't do that if our school culture isn't one that fosters a community of care, concern, and accountability. Growing up in a diverse community and going to schools like Martin Luther King Elementary and McLaughlin Middle School, where I shared cultural identities and similar struggles with my peers, it was always so simple to fit in. Going to Skyview High School was an entirely different experience. When I first started at Skyview, I didn't know anyone, but once I started to branch out and meet new friends, I found that I had very different life experiences than those of my peers. I didn't fit into the stereotype of the majority of students who attended Skyview, white, wealthy, and privileged. I felt misplaced and started to lose myself in many ways. A friend had told me about a club that they participated in where I could meet students of color like myself, but initially I didn't want to join. Meeting new people and being the outsider again was beyond my comfort zone, and I felt scared. I felt motivated to join MECHA because it seemed like a club that's main goal was to benefit students at our school, make a difference, and have a positive impact at a school where this group's students of color were not represented. Throughout my high school experience, the people I've come across have impacted in so many ways. I've lost many friendships because they've shown me their true colors and what they believe in, which has truly disappointed and hurt me. This has shown me that everything happens for a reason. There are people that are placed in your life to teach you lessons, no matter how challenging and heartbreaking it is in the moment. But you realize that you deserve better and that the real ones would never intentionally hurt you. In retrospect, I am very disappointed at freshman year Michelle for being filled with so much doubt and in many ways holding myself back. If I had one piece of advice for a person of color in a predominantly white high school, it would be to challenge yourself, to go out of your comfort zone and be in spaces where you can build community with people who you feel seen, heard, and represented by. My immigrant parents have always ingrained in me resilience, compassion, hard work, and education as priorities. While the world I come from extends far beyond a school club, being a part of MECHA has reinvigorated my passion for social justice, bettering my community, and encouraging others to find their power within to stand up for what is right no matter who is standing beside me. This past year has been very difficult for everyone. I have lost a lot of important things in my life, such as my dog of 16 years, my entire senior year, people, and even myself. Grief is very hard to overcome. It takes time, healing, and letting yourself express all your emotions and feelings. I have realized so much about myself. I started doing things that make me happy, working on myself, and loving myself, which is something I still continue to work on. Stepping out of my comfort zone is what I needed to better myself and my mental health as a whole. My perspective on life has changed so much. The way I live it now is so much more different than before the pandemic. Time is so precious, and we only get one life, so my goal is to live it to my fullest extent. Thank you so much for your energy, for listening, and for giving me the opportunity to share my story.
That was a fantastic speech, Michelle. Thanks for tuning in this week. Next week, we've got some more speeches and more music waiting for you.